What is Civil War about? This is the question on the entire internet's mind right now. And you can tell because it was in a man carrying things video. You can tell something in the film world has reached peak memehood when it gets that honor. But for those of you not terminally engrossed in the film world, you're probably asking yourself a slightly different question. What even is Civil War? Civil War is a 2024 satirical war movie about a fictional civil war going on in America at our current time. The naturally political nature of this film, coupled with the fact that it is being released during an election year, has caused many people to wonder just what's the point of the movie? Like, is it gonna say the orange man's bad or the fossil's bad?
We like to troll. We like to go the night before one of their primaries. We do a little trolling. It's called We Do a Little Trolling.
And without going into spoilers, I think it's important to note that this movie isn't really about any one thing that it's telling you to think. I enjoyed this movie a fair bit, and I feel like the biggest area that it succeeds in is not telling people what to think, which makes it a better satire. Really bad satire has a habit of just telling people what they need to be making fun of or supporting, which isn't the point of satire. It's supposed to be taking an indirect stance and just showing us an exaggerated version of stuff that we already see in our day-to-day lives. That's a lot of what Civil War is really about. The story is told from the perspective of war journalists that are just documenting what they're seeing. Through watching the movie, you can get a kind of sense of what's going on and who is in the right and who is in the wrong, but again, that's only because the story is told through a limited perspective. One faction of the Civil War is never really shown to us, and what we see makes them seem pretty safely in the wrong. But because we see such little of them, it's very difficult to just sit down and go, yeah, they are 100% in the wrong, because we don't know everything. The story's perspective is limited, just like how ours would be if this was real. But that doesn't really answer the central question of what is Civil War about. And before I say anything about what I think Civil War is about, I should probably say that this use of limited perspective and the characters that we see makes it so that the story doesn't really have a clear narrative in what it's trying to communicate. The characters are just war journalists that capture things as they happen, and even as one of the characters says, they don't really have to have an opinion on what's going on. They just have to get the truth out to people and let them form their own opinions. And I think that's kind of the way the film is meant to operate. Alex Garland and the writers are just showing us this world through the eyes of the journalists that are meant to capture what is happening, and we are left to internalize it and figure out what it all means. And that's why this question of what is Civil War about is so popular, because everyone is meant to think that it's about something different. Because that's how stuff like this works. Everyone is meant to look at the objective photos that these journalists are taking and come to their own conclusion. But what is my conclusion? To me, what is Civil War about? Well, it's a movie about one word: juxtaposition. For those that are unaware, juxtaposition is a big word that basically just means to put two different objects next to each other to accentuate their differences. This is often used in literature and film to show two different characters or ideas or worlds or what have you next to each other to show how different they are. Really skilled writers are able to do this very subtly through things like themes and setting. One popular example would be in the show Andor, which I did just start watching recently, and look, I'm gonna be honest, you guys were telling the truth, this shit bangs. In episode 8, Andor looks out a window and sees nothing but despair as there's lines and lines of prisoners around him. At the same time, back on Coruscant, a bunch of senators look out the windows and see the beautiful city and talk about how great the Empire is. Several scenes like this are layered all throughout Civil War. I'd say the main theme of Civil War is hope, and hope is constantly pulled back and forth in a type of tug-of-war in juxtaposing scenes. Our characters come across a town that is seemingly untouched by the war, where everybody's just living happy, normal lives. This is juxtaposed by the characters finding out that there's actually a militia in the area that's spying on them. And yeah, a lot of these aren't exactly subtle, but most of them work for the most part. Our characters come across a bright, shiny winter wonderland for children that also happens to be the site of a very recent massacre. A scene of our characters happily driving through the countryside listening to music. Let's follow it up with the single most horrific moment in the entire movie.
There's misunderstanding here. What? Well, you're American, okay? Okay.
This juxtaposition can even be found in the soundtrack. A scene of rebels executing a group of unarmed soldiers is accompanied by a hip-hop song. A character's painfully and slowly bleeding out? Let's put a country song behind it. And on it goes. When I realized that there was this constant through line of juxtaposition throughout really all of the scenes in this movie, I think that's really when I started enjoying it. I actually do get why this movie isn't resonating with a lot of people, because it doesn't have particularly strong characters or really a strong plot. I mean, the main plot is just our characters driving somewhere. However, the central idea of juxtaposition is what allows the scenes to still be charged with tension and enjoyment. Because anytime the characters are happy or having hope, you know it's about to be ripped away. And I do feel like that was one of the main motivating factors for this constant idea of juxtaposition, to give the audience a rhythmic ebb and flow of hope.
Giving it to them and then immediately taking it away. And that just really made the movie more enjoyable for me.
This film is going to have thousands of different interpretations, and I think that's perfectly okay. In fact, I think film would be really boring if we all looked at everything the exact same way. The subjective nature of art is what makes it beautiful. I just wanted to throw my 2 cents in here because as this debate rages on, I thought my take was, at the very least, interesting. Since I haven't really seen anybody bring up this idea of juxtaposition yet,
I thought it'd be cool to see if anybody else thought that way. And if you don't, that's fine. Come away with this movie with whatever opinion you may have. This just helped me enjoy the movie a lot more.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. I live in this world. You live in a psycho bunker where 9/11 was an inside job and the government are all Nazis.
The government are all Nazis!